Welcome back once again to computer construction. Okay, so here's my gigantic chassis that I've got, and today what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install our motherboard and get that thing situated in here. As you can see, I've already got these brass standoffs in place, so those should be good to go. And I've got my motherboard over here, and so what we're going to do is just position the motherboard and bolt it down. Now the other thing we've got to do, and the reason why this video has been somewhat delayed, is because, see right down here where the back plate goes. Well, I didn't have a back plate for this particular motherboard, so I was going to have to order one off of eBay. However, my friend was able to find this thing, and so he brought it in, and so now we have the proper back plate to match our motherboard. Anti-static bag, and here's the back plate. Now the way the back plate fits in, this thing is just held in basically by some little like little detents right here, and so it just snaps in. And so I'm going to put this thing right here, and I got to make sure it's the right side up. You know, take a look. And it'll generally have like some lettering printed on here, or you can compare it to the back of the motherboard and just make sure that all the holes are lined up correctly, and they are. So now I'm just going to snap this guy in place. Okay. And there he is. Alright, that should be secure. Now this thing, this back plate, you know, if you can't get it to snap all the way in, which you shouldn't have any problem, it should fit right in there because these cutouts are all standard size. But you know, if it's not 100% fitting or something, then don't worry too much about that, because once we get the motherboard in place, then that'll help hold it in also. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so here goes our motherboard. Get this thing out of here. Alright, now this motherboard already has a Ryzen processor in place. I think we did that last time. And we've also got these brackets here that we're going to mount our cooling device on, our fan assembly. Now this motherboard is a relatively small one. This is a mini ATX, and let me just make sure. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, it looks like we've got all of our standoffs in place. There we go. So now what I'm going to do, I've got this little test tube full of nuts and bolts. And I'm going to look through here, and I'm going to find some appropriately sized screws. A few of them. And with the help of my screwdriver, we're going to go ahead and start bolting this motherboard down. Oh wait, I almost forgot. Okay, before I bolt this motherboard down, what I'm going to do, okay, you see these tiny little connectors here? One of them says power switch, one says power LED, one says hard drive LED, and one should say, yep, there it is, reset switch. I'm going to go ahead and attach these things first, because, you know, even though on this particular system I've got plenty of room to work, it's still going to be much easier if I go ahead and put these things on first. Now it looks like my reset switch goes on these posts, and alright, I'm going to have to go and get a magnifying glass or my phone to be able to see what I'm doing. because these things are really tiny, and I want to make sure you guys can see what I'm doing here. Let's see. Yeah, okay, these things plug on right here to these tiny little posts. And so if you've got a magnifying glass handy, then that's really good. If you don't have a magnifying glass handy, then you might be able to take your cell phone out and use your cell phone camera and zoom function to be able to tell which of these is which. Okay, so let me make sure I got that one right. Let's see. Reset switch, power switch, power LED, hard drive LED. Okay. Reset switch, power switch, and alright, now power LED, positive, negative, and as we've discussed earlier, generally the positive connection will be towards the back of the motherboard, the negative connection will be towards the front of the motherboard. On the switches it might not be that important, but on the LEDs it is important, because if your LEDs are wired backwards, then they will not work. As you know, LEDs are direct current devices, so positive and negative winds up being very important. Alright, cool. So I've got those tiny little switches, those tiny little plugs in place. Now then, as I was saying, just going to make sure that our motherboard is seated correctly here. There it goes. Okay, got it lined up. Alright, now I'm ready to put those little screws in place. And so I'm going to do that. And I'll probably just go ahead and time lapse this so that you guys don't have to sit here and watch me, you know, drive these things in. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead and pause this for a second. Okay, that took a minute, but we've got all of our bolts in place, so we've got our motherboard held down. Now then, this motherboard, I'm going to have to install some additional components on this thing, and so what I want to do is try to go in an order that will kind of sort of make sense, so that, you know, I don't wind up in a situation where I've got a component in place that's blocking me from getting to another plug. So next thing I'm going to do is find my little blade here. Okay, what I've got is this isn't going to be the only hard drive on this computer, but this is going to be the primary hard drive. What I've got here is an NVMe drive that is a 1 terabyte, and shoot, dropped it. Okay, here it goes. I was trying to show that to you. 1 terabyte SSD. Now, this thing is going to mount directly to the motherboard in this Ultra M.2 socket. And I don't know if I can ever open the package. Here we go. Excuse me. Alright, now, this little device comes with its own tiny little screwdriver. So if you're installing a lot of these, you're probably going to build up quite the collection of tiny little screwdrivers. If you're a teacher like me, then you can just take these and put them in the classroom, because, you know, students use these and then they accidentally lose them or whatever. Okay, so this little drive Very, very delicate, so you want to be super careful with this guy. Whenever you're mounting this thing, go ahead and just take a look and see where you're going to put your standoff. And it looks like right here. There's already a standoff, but it is messed up. Okay, so we're not going to use it. What in the world? Alright, let me see what I can do about this. I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but this is a slightly used motherboard that I got. And that's not going to fit. I think whoever had the system before me had, instead of mounting the drive using the regular standoff, they had put this, it looks like a little aluminum standoff that's got some glue on it, of all things. And that glue is making it impossible for me to get on there with this little nut driver. Okay, what I'm going to have to do is find a pair of pliers or a wrench or something that I can use to get this thing out with. Luckily, right over here, I just happen to have a pair of pliers. And so I was able to get a grip on this thing, and once you get it broken loose, then you can just turn it out of there with your hands. Okay, see, this thing is full of crazy glue. I'm not going to be able to use it. Luckily for me, this particular motherboard happens to have another M2 slot right here, and so we're just going to grab the standoff from that one and use it instead. Okay, here we go. Alright, going to put this guy in place, and I'm just going to tighten it down finger tight, and then I'm going to take this plier and I'm going to turn it like another, like maybe 1/8 of a turn. Okay, I'm not going to like try to muscle it down. Don't do that. You're liable to wind up breaking something. Okay, now then, as I was saying, okay, now the screw that holds this M2 in place is uber small. If you drop this thing into the carpet, then it's probably just going to be gone. So if you're in the business, or you're planning on getting into the computer business and you're going to be doing this very often, you might want to invest in a screw assortment. Go on like Newegg or Amazon, whatever, and just order an assortment of fine screws, you know, nuts and bolts that are common to the computer industry, because you're going to see the same things over and over again. You see this little deal right here? That little screw? It's like a little, I don't know, like a little finger screw that you can tighten. That thing's like 25 years old. Here's one that's brand new, and it's exactly the same thing. So if you buy hardware for your computers, then you don't really have to worry about like tomorrow somebody coming along with a new threading or something like that. These things are all pretty standard. Alright, now with one minor exception. Okay, whenever they came out with these M2 drives, somebody decided it was a great idea to use screws that are super small and not adhering to any previous standard. Alright, what you want to do is just very gently seat this drive into the M2 slot. Okay, now it's gonna, whenever you push it down, it's gonna offer some resistance. It's almost like it's spring-loaded, which makes this even trickier. And what you may wind up having to do, what I've done before, is actually go ahead and start that screw first and then push the M2 drive down and then secure the screw the rest of the way. And we may have to do that again because these things are ridiculously small and difficult to maneuver. So what I'm going to wind up doing, and I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about here. I'm going to, well, let me get this thing out of the way. I'm going to just slide that out. Okay, I'm going to take this screw and I'm going to go ahead and start it. I don't know if I can get a grip on it. These things are frustratingly small. I'm like, who in the world came up with this idea? Okay, so my screw's in place, and now I'm going to put my drive in. Okay, get it seated, and now I'm going to kind of tilt that screw a little bit, just enough to let this pass. Da, 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 da. Okay. Okay, well, I've done this before with some success. Okay, there it goes. All right, now we've got our M2 drive secured. That should stay right there. Okay, so now we've got that taken care of. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and install. I'm going to go ahead and put my memory in. Okay, now this particular motherboard says whenever you're installing your RAM, you're supposed to install it. If you only have 2 sticks, like we do, you're supposed to install in slots 2 and 4. So that's what we're going to do. I'm not going to make you hang around while I cut this package open. Okay, trying to get you guys a little bit better vantage point here. Okay, take a look at your memory. You're going to see this happens to be DDR4 memory, but DDR5, 3, whatever, they all kind of work the same way. Different number of pins. But you're going to see there's a little notch right here in the middle, and then you'll notice that there's pins. There are fewer pins on this side than on this side. That's so that you can't accidentally put this memory in backwards. So what we're going to do is we're just going to line this dude up right here, making sure that the notch in the memory aligns with the notch in the motherboard. Right there they go. Okay, now you're going to need to push this stuff in gently but firmly. I usually use 2 thumbs and just kind of lean over top of the motherboard and push it in until you hear it click. Okay, there it goes. See how that little hold down right there is now firmly in place. Okay, that stick of memory should be well seated. I hope that it is. Okay, and here goes the next one. Now this memory is not super expensive. This is some PNY memory. It says gaming, accelerate gaming. Some memory has got RGB lighting built into it. It just depends, you know, do you want a really fancy looking machine? You know, what kind of machine does your customer want? If you're building this for somebody else, you know, they might want, especially if they're buying it for a kid, they might want something that looks really flashy. Now, the only flash we're going to have on this machine is I just happen to have a fan right here that is it's got an RGB attachment so I can plug it into my motherboard, and then this fan will like alternate colors, or from the BIOS I'll be able to you know, like change the colors. But the other fans on this machine are just basic black. And you know, for myself, I don't really care. You know, having flashing lights is cool and everything. My machine over there in the corner kind of does. But it was just because whenever I was ordering those fans, they were all the same price. So I thought, well, I might as well get the light up ones. It doesn't cost any more money. Sorry, y'all, I've got a little bit of a cough. Alright, now this particular box has got, I've got the sides taken off of it so that I have a lot of room to work. I'm going to go ahead and plug in my power connectors next. Let's see, that is a hard drive power connector. What I'm looking for is, right here it goes. Okay, this is not what I was looking for. Here it goes. Okay, this plug right here. You'll notice, see, I've got this plug here, and then I've got this plug here. And at first blush, these guys look the same, right? But except for, I don't know if you guys can see those or not. This one right here is a CPU plug, okay? And so the pin configuration is different. This is PCIe plug. It looks almost the same, but the pins that are square and rounded off are in different locations. So if you start plugging a PCIe connector into your CPU power, then it's not going to work too well. So we're going to go ahead and plug this guy in, and I can tell you from experience it's a lot easier to go ahead and plug these things in before you put your fan tower in place, because that fan takes up a lot of space and makes it really hard to work around. Okay, that fan is going to be right here, and so I want to go ahead and get everything I can put in place before I put that cooling fan in. Excuse me. And with that fan out of the way, you know, I have a lot more room to work. And here is going to be my main power connector. Here goes my 24 pin, and I'm going to go ahead and plug that guy in right here, and that should just click right in, and it does. Okay, very good. Alright, so now that's in place. Let's see, what's going to be next? I guess as long as I'm down here, I should go ahead and plug in. Let's see, what I'm looking for is an RGB fan connector. And right here it goes. Okay, fan LED. And I believe this is actually a 3-pin fan connector, but alright, I'm going to plug it in here and we're going to see what happens. It may not work. Yeah, I think this RGB plug is not going to work with this particular motherboard. This uses I take that back. Okay, down here at the other end of the motherboard, I've got a connector I can use. Right here. Alright, I guess I could wait to put that in, but alright, just going to go ahead and put that right there for the time being. Okay, now this other plug is fan power. And I've got several different choices here that I can use for fan power. Let's see, I'm on the back side. I guess I'll just go ahead and use this one. And right there that guy goes. Ta-da! Okay, got that dude in place. I think I mentioned to y'all earlier that cable management is my downfall. I always wind up with, you know, like a spaghetti kind of a deal going on. But we'll see what we can do with some twisty ties whenever we get closer to finished with this dude. Okay, now, next thing. Alright, we got some SATA connectors. SATA hard drive connectors. And so I'm going to go ahead and start plugging these in. I've got one here. Okay, got this one here. I've got 2 hard drives on this particular rig. Okay, plug that guy in. And plug this one in. I got 2 hard drives and a DVD drive. And that's going to be all the SATA connectors I have to worry about. Because, what on earth? I got that in backwards? No, can't be. Okay. Lord have mercy. There. I'm having SATA issues. Alright, now on the front side I've got a couple of USB 3 connectors. Alright, so USB 3 connectors got a little notch in it. Just plug it into the corresponding port. Right there it goes. The other thing on the front side is going to be this audio thing. Okay, here goes my HD audio. And HD audio generally is going to be located towards the back. 97. Okay. Depending on your motherboard, if you've got like a really old motherboard, then you might need to use this Audio 97 connector, but that's probably not likely. Excuse me. Alright, power. Sorry y'all, I'm just now getting over a sinus infection that was just kicking my butt last week. I'm feeling much better now, thank you very much. Alright, now this machine has got fan headers out the yin-yang, so I'm just going to plug. I've got another fan in the front. I'm going to plug it on right there. I've got yet another fan that is part of the cover plate, and we'll have to plug that thing in last. What else? Is there anything else we're forgetting? I don't think so, not for right this minute. Okay, so for right now, this is where we're going to finish. And then we'll, tomorrow, we'll go ahead and put in, because I've got class in just a few minutes, I've got to get going. So tomorrow, we'll go ahead and install that fan, and then we'll also install a video card. I've got a video card in a closet down the hall that I'm wanting to try, and that thing is crazy huge, so I'm not sure exactly how we're going to fit it in here, but we're going to see what we can do with it. And if it doesn't work, you know, then we'll find something else. But we're getting close. Okay, we've got our hard drive, we've got our memory, we've got some fans connected, we've got our front panel all connected. Looks like everything is coming along pretty good. So far so good, as they say. Alright, so I will see y'all tomorrow when we install our video card and our cooling tower.